Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are talking about avoiding extremes. So, for the next little while, the videos that I will be producing and hopefully you will be watching are going to all be centered on the Tao Te Ching. I've recently got this new illustrated edition. It's very beautiful and I'm really enjoying it. But I want to combine 2,500 years of Chinese philosophy with the opinions of a 27-year-old Canadian boy who grew up on a rural farm. So for the next little while, there will be videos peppered in here, basically talking about different chapters within the Tao Te Ching, and that's how we're going to do this because I want to, and I think November is a good time for reminiscing and looking for wisdom, deciding your path forward, and so we're going to do that. So the translator of this particular edition of the Tao Te Ching has put the chapters into a very beautiful illustrated book. If you don't know, the Tao Te Ching is divided into 81 different verses or chapters, however you want to refer to them. And so I'm just going to pick them at random and we're going to talk about them, and I'm going to give you my real world 2023 wisdom and insight into these things, if you can call what I have wisdom, which I don't know if I would. So first one, as you can see, the title of this video, Avoiding Extremes. This comes from the chapter 29 of the Tao Te Ching. And I'm going to talk about my little bit of wisdom, and then I'm going to talk about what the Tao says and how we can do that in our lives. So, avoiding extremes. How exactly do we do this? I think, especially at this day and age, with the current socio-political situations going on across the world, kind of the hyperbolic nature of our media, of our economy, everything seems to be full one way, full the other way. You know, like you are left or you are right. You are pro this or you are anti this. Our world is becoming very bipolar in that there are two poles on either side of the spectrum, and you are expected to camp under one of the poles or the other. And that is really frustrating and upsetting for many of the people like myself, and I'm sure like you guys, who find yourself in the middle of these situations a lot of the time, and you go like, well, you guys make some good points, you guys make some good points, but you're both missing a whole bunch of this wisdom or this knowledge or, you know, the nuance. And in today's world, it has never been more important to look at both sides objectively, to try and remove your bias as best as you can, to attempt to see people's perspectives and their upbringings, because people, I've always said this, if you were born in a different country, you would have a different religion, a different mindset. You know, your entire existence is dependent on the people that raised you, what they did for a living, what they think about the world, your friends, your external family, you know, the family that you see on the weekends or on Christmas or whatever your holidays are, the food you eat, the geography, the temperature of the place you live, the customs, the power of the country that you live in, if your country's a wealthy country or if it's not a wealthy country, if it's developing or it's aging in place. You know, there are so many things that shape who we are. And so the idea that you live at one extreme position, I think it's pretty easy to see that living at any of those extremes is going to be wrong because it's all relative. We are an incredibly plastic and flexible species. Our brains are very complex, and we can understand the positions of people regardless of actually having experienced their lives. Like I can look at a political figure in the United States and see their perspective from their perspective. I can put myself in their shoes, as we say. And although that's not 100% accurate and I'm missing a huge part of the picture, I can sympathize with that person. So I think avoiding extremes is really, really important today more than ever, because extremism is kind of rampant everywhere. I mean, all you have to do is Google extremism, the single word, and you will find hundreds and hundreds of articles and ideas and thoughts and events that are shaped by the idea of holding an extreme position on something. So that's essentially my take on this. I really try hard not to be extreme with anything I do. Like I don't try to be like an extreme ideologue or have a lot of strongly held positions. I have some positions that I think are strongly held, but I'm definitely open to being persuaded about the other side or this side or those kinds of things. A lot of my strong positions are sort of very relative, so I'll be at a party or something and people will start talking about like the voting age or, any of these topics that elicit strong emotional responses from one side or the other. And my position is usually like, well, it really depends on the situation. I'm sure in some situations, the idea of a 16-year-old voting might be good. And in other situations, it might be really bad. So I really try not to come down on anything one way or the other extremely hard, because you do miss a lot of stuff. When you hold that position, you have to justify your side, because no side will be infallible. Each side of whatever argument you want to talk about will have serious flaws, issues, there will be concerns, there will be all these kinds of things. And so if you take that extreme position, you then have to adopt the typical dogma or the things that people say on one side or the other that you don't necessarily believe in or you don't necessarily agree with, or those things aren't necessarily correct. But in order to hold that extreme position, you have to walk the walk and talk the talk. And we have seen that a lot recently, where a politician that holds a very extreme view one way or the other sort of gets dogged down in the rhetoric and is forced to take a position that's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's not correct. Like I don't care what your extreme is. You have to compromise when you have those extremes. But if you don't hold an extreme view, you don't have to compromise anything. You are free to pick and choose on either side what is important, what is valid, what is correct, what is truthful. And that's a very powerful thing. But we tend to look at people who don't hold extremes, like those middle people, as stupid. We tend to look down at them. We tend to have low respect for them. We think that they are wishy-washy, that they're people pleasers, they're just trying to please everybody. And there might be some of that, sure, I'm sure there is. But looking at people who take a middle position as just inherently dumb is a really prejudiced way to view it, and it's very typical of either side of the extreme on whatever position you are, whether it's left or right politically, whether it's atheist or very religious, whether it's this religion versus that religion, whether it is rich versus poor. No matter how you take the political disagreement, there is going to be a middle ground that occupies a vast majority of the truthful space. There are some situations where, yes, one side has it 95% correct and the other side is just wrong, like flat earthers. But to say that they are just inherently bad or whatever, no, that's not correct. I mean, you say what you want, but questioning the narrative and questioning these things is a healthy way to go about it. It's healthy to look at the knowledge that we have on this planet and just have a question of it. You don't have to take it to an extreme, but Questioning it's good. A lot of people go their entire lives without questioning anything and they just take it for granted. And you can't do that either. Just because it is an established narrative doesn't mean that it needs critiquing now and then and questioned, and maybe it leads to some interesting insights. You never know, right? So try to withhold your judgment and avoid extremes. So I'm going to read the little passage and then we will wrap it up. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on avoiding extremes. I hope you have a beautiful day. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. For someone who desires to control the world, I see no chance of success. The world is an instrument of the spirit. It cannot be controlled. It cannot be grasped. Those who try to control it are defeated. Those who try to grasp it lose it. So the wise man seeks not to control, and so is not defeated, seeks not to grasp, and so cannot lose it. The things in creation may lead or follow, draw in or expel, grow strong or weaken, succeed or fail. Thus the wise man avoids the extreme, shuns extravagance, and renounces the arrogant.